Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new fall season of Sports Hour. I'm your new host, not Kevin Syracuse. I'm Trevor Hauer. With me is Sarah Gordon. And Sarah, it's great to be back, isn't it?
It is good to be back. You know, it's a really new experience for all of us because we lost a ton of people. All of our great friends are graduated and left us behind, but they're on to bigger and better things. But it's exciting to be back.
All of our buddies are gone, and now it's our responsibility to pass the torch. And what better way to do that than to recap week one of the NFL, and starting with the AFC, Sarah. Football is back.
Football is back.
Football is back. After a long March, April, May, June, July, August, we saw the preseason. Nobody really cares about the preseason.
Yeah.
But September is here now, and football is back. Let's start off with our local team and the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo hosting Pittsburgh for their first time to allow in fans since 2019, I believe. And the Steelers took this game 23-16.
Yeah, they did. You know, it was a very upsetting game. I'm not gonna lie. It was, you know, we went in. The preseason is the preseason, but still, the Bills won. Even with their backups, they won all three preseason games. So we're going into this game with the Buffalo should have won. They should have come out with the win.
I mean, I would have thought that they were going to win.
Yeah.
My money was on the Bills if I were to bet on that game. Josh Allen went 3 for 51, 270 yards, and a touchdown. Devin Singletary led the way in rushing. He got 11 carries for 72 yards, averaging 6.5 yards a carry. And Isaiah McKenzie to start off that game, what a kick return, right? That was amazing. I thought they were just going to win the game right then and there, run the game down the Steelers' throats, but it was. And the funny thing was about that game is it was 10-0 at halftime. I didn't think the Steelers were going to score any points. And especially with Stephon Diggs putting up some decent numbers and Cole Beasley looking good and Emmanuel Sanders. The Bills just fell a little bit short, but after the game, Jordan Poyer was reminding everybody in the Bills locker room, hey, it's just one game. It's just one game. You have 16 more. It's a 17-game season. No big deal.
Yeah, that's always true. And, I mean, you could see the momentum shift kind of at halftime. You see what can happen, just a quick pep talk for Pittsburgh in this case, and they came back and they won. And, you know, Buffalo wasn't, like you said, they weren't on their best game, and you just have to move past it and hope that you can win the next all of them. But yeah, you just kind of push forward and kind of put the game back in mind, still learn from it, but always just keep moving forward.
Yep, I think they travel to Miami this weekend to take on the Miami Dolphins. That should be a winnable game for the Bills, and I can't imagine what Bills Mafia would react to if they went 0-2 to start the season. So they got the Mafia behind their back, and they're up against the Dolphins this week. So moving on to the next game, though, Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 overall pick, losing to Houston 37-21, led by Tyrod Taylor, an old Bills favorite. This game took me by surprise because the Texans were supposed to be the worst team in the AFC.
Mm-hmm. I know, they definitely came back and defied our expectations on that one. And hey, Tyrod Taylor coming back for it, that's good after what happened last season, and good for him. They really, like I said, defied our expectations, and we'll have to see how that plays out with the AFC.
For all we know, the Houston Texans could be the Jacksonville Jaguars from last year, win the opening day and then drop the next 15 or 16 of them. So you never know. I still think the Texans are going to win 4 games max, but
yeah.
A big win over the rookie Trevor Lawrence, and they got a lot of pressure to him. Even though he did throw 3 touchdowns, he also threw 3 interceptions as well. Moving on to the next game, though, Cleveland and Kansas City. This was a fun one. Cleveland was up like 22-10 in the third quarter, and Kansas City, led by that man, Patrick Mahomes, leads another comeback, and he remains undefeated as a starting quarterback in the month of September.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Super Bowl runners-up defeating and coming back against the Cleveland Browns?
I mean, it's just in typical Kansas City fashion, honestly. And hey, I was kind of rooting for only Mayfield just because he's on my fantasy team right now.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a Bills fan, so I'm like either or, but man, those Kansas City Chiefs, they really just show you why they have been Super Bowl contenders for the last couple years, and so they just, they keep coming back. They've got the talent, and obviously leader Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
They've got the formula, so they're still going to be one of the top teams to beat for sure this year.
And it was one of those really fun 2-minute drill games to watch. Obviously, Cleveland down by 4 late in the game. They need a touchdown to take the lead to win the game. And Baker Mayfield throws an interception inside 2-minute warning to clinch the win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I said before, Patrick Mahomes remains undefeated as a starter in the month of September. And that moves us into our next game, another AFC East showdown. That is the Miami Dolphins against the New England Patriots. The Dolphins beat rookie Mac Jones 17-16 in a low-scoring game. What do you think about Mac Jones and the Patriots as of right now? I mean, obviously they lost Week 1, but I think he looks pretty good for his first start.
Yeah, I would agree. I think definitely it's probably a good move. I don't know. It was probably a good move to kick Cam Newton out of there and just kind of see what the Patriots. I mean, obviously I'm never gonna vote for the Patriots, but it's going to be, I think, good momentum for them. Like I said, kicking Cam Newton out and seeing what this new quarterback is going to offer. It's still never going to be the same as the Brady Patriots team that we've come to know up until the last couple of years. But I think it's definitely going to take some momentum, and, even with a loss, you still have all these other games to improve upon, and we'll see how that turns out for them.
I still think Mac Jones is still morphing into a miniature version of Tom Brady. Like, their throwing styles are the same, but, Brady played in Michigan, obviously Mac Jones played in Alabama, but they throw the check down a lot under Bill Belichick. That's something that we saw a lot with Tom Brady. He throws a lot to the tight ends. I don't think he's going to be as good as Tom Brady. I don't think any quarterback in a long time is going to be as good as Tom Brady. But he's definitely looking kind of like a shadow of Tom Brady's. That should be scary for other teams in that division, except Buffalo, of course, because Josh Allen's the best quarterback in that division.
Yes, I agree.
But the Miami Dolphins, it was a battle of the two Alabama quarterbacks. Tua got the best of Mac Jones. They just snuck by the Patriots, and they won 17-16. And that brings us to our next game. And for anybody who's new to this television program, we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts game. I, for one, am a resident Colts fan, rocking the old Reebok hat. And that Seahawks team just unloaded on that defense, and the Colts have lost every week 1 since 2013. Andrew Luck's sophomore season, and for that, boo Seahawks.
We love the dramatic hat toss there, Trevor.
That happened more than once on Sunday, Sarah. I hope you know that.
I don't doubt it. I really don't doubt it. That's how I was with the Bills, honestly. Just sitting there, you forget the people who are really into these games like us, and you're just screaming at the TV, but it's fine.
Obviously. I made the joke, too, that Russell Wilson's wife can throw 350 yards on the Colts defense. They just look terrible. Their defense was getting torched by Tyler Lockett and by Gerald Everett, the tight end. It just wasn't a pretty sight. Carson Wentz was put on his butt multiple times, the new quarterback for the Colts, but he had a decent day, except he was just getting pressured nonstop. I think he got sacked 4 times, and he got hit 15 times.
Yeah,
so
that's not a good day for the quarterback.
They're still feeling the effects of the Andrew Luck retirement from 2019. They're going through this quarterback carousel, but that loss was not on the quarterback. It was on the defense, and they got to host the LA Rams this week, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
And for another good one there.
Oh, man. But that brings us to a much better game to watch, in my honest opinion, the Monday night game. Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders going to overtime. The Raiders snuck past them with a game-winning touchdown pass from Derek Carr. They won this game 33-27. And I guess overtime was very back and forth between these two teams. And Derek Carr, I guess the Raiders offense fumbled in the beginning of overtime. Then the Ravens turned the ball over. And then the Raiders ended up getting into the red zone and striking with less than 3 minutes to go in overtime. I thought it was going to be a tie, but in week 1. But how often does that happen?
Yeah.
The Raiders from Las Vegas, or I almost said the Oakland Raiders, beat the Ravens 33-27 in overtime. Even though Lamar Jackson played extremely well, Derek Carr just looked like a completely different quarterback, and that's something that we really don't see out of Derek Carr too much. Like. He'll have these great games here and there, but for the most part, he's mediocre to average. So it's good to see Derek Carr put up those kinds of numbers, especially against a defense that's supposed to be stacked like the Baltimore Ravens defense.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. Their defense, you'd never think the odds were stacked up against Carr, but somehow they're able to push through that, and we'll definitely and maybe this is just foreshadowing for how his season's going to go this year, and hopefully we'll see him kind of keep the momentum going, and see him improve as we go along.
Yeah, and the Raiders definitely have some more weapons than they did a couple years ago. They have Henry Ruggs III, who's arguably one of the fastest wide receivers in the league. Darren Waller, one of the best tight ends, especially one of the number 1 fantasy choices for tight ends in the NFL. And then obviously Hunter Renfrow as well has got the speed too. So. And then you can't forget about Josh Jacobs, who's a great running back out of the backfield. Raiders look like a complete team. They were kind of bad last year. COVID was hitting them hard, especially towards the end of the season when they were trying to make a playoff push. But I think they're out for blood this year, and it was definitely a staple win over the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
And this brings us to our Week 2 preview. Sarah, it is Tua Tagovailoa versus Josh Allen in Miami. I heard that the weather's supposed to be sunny. Who wins this game?
It should be Buffalo. So I think Josh Allen, he just didn't have the best game this first week. You could tell they started off with the very first play of this last game, when they ran back from the kickoff, they should have had that as a touchdown. But, things happen, and Josh Allen just didn't play his best game the first one, but I think now, and you also got to remember, too, for a lot of these teams, this is first time back with complete full stadium.
Yes.
And they've had preseason games, but that's still, like you said before, that's kind of a whole different can of worms. But so you got to remember that they're trying to readjust from readjusting last year to not having fans and now going back to it. So I think that, it was just the first game jitters, so hopefully the Bills should be able to pull out the win this week.
And I think the number 1 reason why the Bills couldn't put the Steelers away was their production on third downs. They were always getting into these 4th and 1s, 4th and 2s, and then they would go for those 4th downs and not get them. I remember that one play in midfield, Sarah. It was like, for some reason, it's a 4th and 1, and they have Devin Singletary out there. I thought they were going to run the ball down the middle, and they throw it back 5 yards to the running back, and he got tackled at midfield, set up great field position, and the Steelers went down the field and took the lead. And, obviously, Pittsburgh had a bunch of lucky bounces, especially that one catch in the end zone that I didn't think was in bounds in the beginning. Then I saw the replay, I'm like, wow, he made a ridiculous catch in the back of the end zone.
That was a good one.
For the most part, I think the Bills' defense was good. I think it's good enough to beat the Dolphins next week. But the problem was from last week was they were stuck on the field for too long. The offense wasn't producing. They were tired.
Yeah.
That led the Steelers and Big Ben to go down the field and score.
Yeah.
But just some, other weapons to look out for with the Dolphins. Jalen Waddle was looking good against the Patriots this Sunday. Tua, I'm not so sold on him yet, but I think he can scramble out of the pocket and pick up a first down. Jakeem Grant looks good. And Devontae Parker, obviously, been on the team for so long. Just only a few weapons that the Dolphins scare me as a Bills supporter. But I think the Bills have what it takes. They're going to go shut down on defense. They remembered what happened last week, and I don't think history will repeat itself. They'll get back to 500, and I think they'll beat the undefeated, technically Miami Dolphins right now.
Yeah, and I think the other biggest thing that they need to look out for is the penalties.
Yep.
There were, five holding penalties and one pass interference.
A back-to-back false start penalty that was killing them. So first and 10 inside Pittsburgh's 40 led to a first and 20. Like, it's just the simple mistakes that are coachable. I don't think the Bills fans need to worry about this loss at all. They were beating on the Steelers a lot last year. They just let them have this one. So, that's
what
a
happens.
it happens in football.
It's a rough game. You can never. The Steelers are a really good team. They're not one of those teams that you ever should count out.
And the way a Bills fan can think about it is, like, they know that they're a good team. They're just knocking some rust off. It's week one. This stuff will happen, and always on to next week. The Bills have a favorable schedule too. So there's a lot to look out for, especially if you're a Bills fan. Like Emmanuel Sanders looking to get his first touchdown. Stephon Diggs obviously doing Stephon Diggs things. The running game looking good. Josh Allen, though, you need to learn how to slide, my friend. I'm telling you, you're going to get injured jumping head first.
That was scaring me a lot.
Oh.
I admire him. Like, he's a good runner. He's good in the pocket. He can get out of there.
Yep.
And it's good. Like, we can use him for those running plays when it's absolutely necessary.
Yep.
But then you just got to get out of it safely, because that's what our concern is.
All right, so I have Bills beating the Dolphins. Sarah's got the Bills beating the Dolphins. Sarah will be right back in approximately 2 minutes. We're going to cover the NFC on this next one, so stay tuned.
We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office, all you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. Executive service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Executive service.
Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, gotta get down. Post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
What a great time for a drink. What a great time for a drink. What a great time for a drink.
If it's time for a drink this many times a day, you're not a social drinker. You're a problem drinker. And you could be well on your way to really messing up your life. Think about it. Talk to somebody about it. Do something about it before it's too late. A message in the interest of your better health from the American Medical Association.
This is not a commercial. If you think measles, mumps, whooping cough, or polio are nothing to worry about, you'd better think again, because they could make your child go blind or deaf. They can cripple or kill. To protect children, you have to get them immunized. Get them their shots. It costs nothing or very little, so get it done now by your doctor or local health center. Your child's future is in your hands. Don't let her down.
A message in the interest of better health from the American Medical Association.
So, jumping right into the NFC, I think these games were honestly, in my opinion, a lot more entertaining than anything in the AFC. And it started with the Thursday night game between the Dallas Cowboys, led by Tom the Goat Brady, the Buccaneers led by Brady, and the Cowboys led by Dak Prescott, who's coming back from a really bad foot injury. The Bucs took this game 31-29, and I think in this game, it was really about who had the ball last. Who's going to have the ball last? Whoever has the ball last, you kick the game-winning field goal, you win. And this game was 50 points total, so if you bet the over in this game, good job. But Tom Brady's just doing Tom Brady things. Like, you could make the argument that maybe Godwin pushed off on that last drive to get into field goal range, but either way, that was a perfect throw by Tom Brady. I think he was catching that anyway. Even if they called that offensive pass interference, he still would have led them down the field. They still would have won that game.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on the defending Super Bowl champs Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now?
I mean, with Tom Brady leading, the guy just doesn't stop. What was it? 3,000, or I can't remember what the number was. It's like 3,000 NFL start. or
Probably,
something like
probably like
It was
his
super high
300th,
number.
probably, maybe.
300, yeah, maybe 3,000 wasn't too. It wasn't a much, but it was just a crazy number, and the guy just doesn't stop, and it's crazy. Now you got Godwin over there, and I think they're gonna be another team, and I hate to, back, and I'm not backing Brady, but you gotta give the guy credit and the team credit. They're gonna probably be another Super Bowl contender this year, and just probably keep racking up the wins. But this was a really fun, good game to watch.
Oh, for sure. Dak Prescott is back. I mean, on the Cowboys side of things, Dak Prescott's looking great. I remember seeing an interview, or I think it was an article that I read, where he was talking to Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, and he said, "This is the year I want to win the Super Bowl more than any other year." And you can see, he's like, my ankle's fine. I'm ready to get back out there and play. I saw what happened when I went down last year. That's not going to repeat itself. I want to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys were my pick to win the NFC East this year. Not Washington, not the Giants, not the Eagles, but definitely the Dallas Cowboys. If they put up those amount of numbers offensively, not so much defensively, those offensive numbers against the Bucs, who are the defending Super Bowl champs, I think that you have a pretty solid team. Even though it's week one, we might be jumping the gun on the Cowboys a little bit, but I think that they're a really, really good team.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help, Tampa Bay's opponents when they literally brought back every single guy from that Super Bowl team from last year. They want to go back-to-back. Obviously, Bruce Arians is a great coach. Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. As much as it pains me to say it, but Tampa Bay's got a stacked team. It's good for them because they've been through, before Brady got there, probably a decade of losing football, 5-win, 6-win seasons, poor draft choices, so it's good for them. Do I like Tom Brady? No, I don't like Tom Brady.
We don't.
And that moves us into our next game between the Chargers and the Washington football team, who still, by the way, don't have a name yet. I don't know why.
What is that at this point? It's been 2 years now?
Just call yourself Washington something. Just put something in there.
The Sentinels,
Or the Warriors, or the anything. Oh, come on. But the Washington football team is going to stick for another year. Chargers won this one in a low-scoring game, 20-16. Justin Herbert continues to look good, even though they didn't put up a lot of offensive numbers. He's a sophomore this year, going in the NFL, after they parted ways with Rivers last year to start his rookie season. He looked great from the start. And obviously, that defense that the Chargers have, shutting down wide receivers like Terry McLaurin and that run game, and putting Ryan Fitzpatrick on the ground and injuring him, and putting in Taylor Heineke, that Charger defense just did not care. And I think it was a defensive battle. I mean, when you score 20 points and you win the game, oftentimes that doesn't happen. You have to score more than 20 points to win a game in the NFL. But if I'm a Charger fan, I'll take it. But what do you think about Justin Herbert right now? I honestly think he's one of the best quarterbacks from the 2020 draft.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that definitely, and then definitely this not being his first year.
Yeah.
Definitely he has that, freshman pressure out of the way now.
Rookie season's done. He's playing in front of fans now. Everything's looking normal. Obviously, Keenan Allen's still looking good at the wide receiver spot.
Of course.
Austin Eckler's a great running back. I think the Chargers are on the rise. I think they'll be up there with the Broncos. Probably not as far as the Chiefs. But that division is going to be fun. With the Raiders looking good, how they are, and obviously the Chiefs, who are the Super Bowl runners-up, and the Chargers defense shutting the Washington football team down. That's going to be an exciting division.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be one to watch this year.
And that's the AFC West. Normally, you get one good team out of there. So it's good to see 3 teams right off the bat look really stellar. And that goes into a blowout game in the NFC. The Philadelphia Eagles destroying Matt Ryan-led Atlanta Falcons 32-6. Not much to say about this game other than a complete wash of the Atlanta Birds. The Philly Birds destroyed them. And, I mean, Jalen Hurts is obviously the #1 quarterback now. They have Carson Wentz in the rearview mirror. The thoughts of him playing there are no more. And that what do you have to say about Devontae Smith, their first pick of the draft this year, the Heisman Trophy winner, wide receiver out of Alabama, I think it was on his second career catch, he got his first career touchdown. So,
Yeah.
not much to say there. Matt Ryan, in my opinion, is washed. I don't think he's a great quarterback anymore. And you're starting to see the beginning of the Jalen Hurts era in Philadelphia. And who knows, they can possibly make a run this year in the NFC East. It's too early to tell, but you never really know.
Yeah, you never know. There's still 16 games left now in the season, so we're just gonna sit back and watch it. We'll see what happens.
And you know those Philly fans, like when their quarterback is playing well, he's treated like a god, treated like a saint. But if he has one bad game, Jalen Hurts will be booed out of the building. And then I don't know what will happen there. Like maybe his confidence will get shot. There's no way the Eagles go 17-0, so he's going to have one bad game. They're going to lose. But I think that might be something that Philly quarterbacks, reasons why they don't really succeed in the NFL is because they get all the pressure from those angry Philly fans. They remind me of Jets fans. They remind me of Raiders fans. And a really, really aggressive version of Bills fans. But, you know,
Yeah.
I think that the era of Jalen Hurts has begun, and he did not show the Falcons any mercy whatsoever. That defense held Atlanta to 2 field goals the whole game.
Yeah.
And Philly was scoring touchdown after touchdown, and it was just a complete aerial assault with Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
And that goes into our next game, the 49ers and the Lions. This was looking like a complete blowout, but the Lions, led by Jared Goff, after they traded Matthew Stafford away to LA in exchange for Jared Goff and 3 draft picks consecutively, I believe that's what the trade was. The Lions are now, they looked awful in the beginning of that game. The first 3 quarters, they looked bad. Jared Goff threw a pick 6. Even though Raheem, Mostert went down for the whole year with an ACL tear, I believe, that 49ers offense, led by Trey Lance, was looking really, really great. And, what happened in that beginning of the game? Wasn't it like Jimmy Garoppolo fumbling the first snap and the 49ers benched him and put in the rookie, Trey Lance? Like, what a start for that rookie quarterback. Usually rookie quarterbacks in their first game get sacked 6 times, they throw 4 interceptions, and 2 of them are returned for touchdowns. But he looked great against the Lions.
Yeah, for sure. We could see the points there. We got 41-33. It was just high all across the board. But yeah, that's definitely, for a rookie season, that's very high. The very first game, I think we're going to see some things from him this year, for sure.
I was making the argument that Trey Lance was the best quarterback to come out of that draft. And all he did this Sunday was prove me right. It's only week 1, and there's 16 more games to go for all these teams, but man, did he prove me right in week 1. And it was getting a little scary there for the Niners in the 4th quarter when they started taking all their starters out of the game. The Lions started to crawl back. At one point, the score was 41-21, I believe. And they scored 2 touchdowns, missed the 2-point conversion on both attempts, and they got within 8 points to finish off the game 41-33. You can look at it as garbage time points, but you could also look at it as a potential comeback. The Lions won't be as bad as people think that they'll be. That's just what I think. Even though they've had a really bad history of just, Matthew Stafford is now balling out. We'll get to that in a bit, but he got out of Detroit, and no surprise there, his game is completely turned it around. Now it's just about Jared Goff turning his game around and giving something enjoyable to watch for these Detroit fans, because you see Cleveland is now looking good. Now you got to get Detroit in there too. So, I feel bad for those guys, but
Yeah.
I think they're definitely in the right direction in a way.
And it's always the first game, so.
Yes.
Okay.
And, this next game was arguably one of the biggest, I wouldn't say upset, but outstanding performances from a lesser team from last year.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Vikings lost to the Cincinnati Bengals 27-24 in overtime. That connection on the Bengals offense between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, those 2 LSU boys, man, underrated tandem in the league right there. They're going to be torching the AFC North. Arguably the most fun team to watch in Week 1. Just watching those two young guys do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow coming back after that ACL tear last year. What do you think is in store for Joey Burrow this season?
I mean, I think that coming back from an injury like that, I think he did well to start off already, and you can. Hopefully, you pray that you only go up from the first game. So I think he's still got a lot in store. We saw the potential so far in this game. So I think he can definitely keep improving as the season goes on.
Yeah, and that game was. I mean, not only was it fun because it went into overtime, and those two young guys were connecting the whole time, but it was just back and forth the whole time. Every time the Bengals scored a touchdown, the Vikings would come back down the field and score a touchdown. Every time they kicked a field goal, the Vikings would come back and kick a field goal.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much a tie game the whole way through until literally the last 5 seconds of overtime. The Bengals rookie kicker hits a game-winning 30-something yard field goal. That's got to feel good for him. It's got to feel good for Burrow. His first game back since, I believe, Week 7 of last year. And it's got to feel good for those Bengals fans because they have a good team in the future, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And the Jets and the Panthers, nothing much to say about this game. I think the Panthers and the Jets both didn't play too well. The final score was 19-14. Panthers won. It was a defensive showdown, but Zach Wilson's first career start. He threw 2 touchdowns, also threw 2 interceptions. Exceptional day from the rookie if you're a Jets fan, especially considering the fact that the Jets lack wide receiving weapons. And Zach Wilson's just a crazy out-of-the-pocket quarterback. I think he's going to be a threat in that AFC East in the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely going to help, in some respects, turn the Jets team around, who's obviously been struggling for a while now.
A long time.
So, yeah, a long time. So I think he's definitely probably step one in helping to get maybe the Jets team back into playoff contention. That's still years down the line, but it's definitely the first step. And like you said, they just got to get the receiving core and figure out from there.
And how ironic was it that Sam Darnold was on the other side of the ball throwing against the New York Jets to win that game?
It was just a crazy situation going on there.
It's got to feel good for him. The Panthers are 1-0. I believe everybody in the NFC South started off 1-0, so that's pretty, except for the Falcons, of course, but most of the teams in that division started off 1-0. The Cardinals destroying the Titans, that one caught me by surprise, 38-13. The Titans just did not look good. Derrick Henry was getting stuffed. Tannehill was throwing interceptions. Kyler Murray was finding DeAndre Hopkins the whole day. What can you really say about this one? It was a blowout, 38-13. That had to be a punch in the face to the Titans and their fans.
Yeah, and because from last year, we were expecting the Titans. They were a decent, good team last year.
Very good team.
They were, and so I remember I think they beat the Bills that one game, and so we were probably expecting more. So this was kind of a complete surprise to the Titans fans.
And Henry was the best running back in the NFL last year, arguably, and I don't think their season is over either. You just have these crazy Week 1 games that are just decided by a coin flip or something like that.
Yeah.
There's 16 more games to go. I will keep repeating myself saying that. So if you're a fan of any of these teams that have lost watching this, you got 16 games left. Yeah. Just saying.
And it's just a start, and as a whole, like I said before, a whole new situation with more changes this year, and we'll see them as the season continues on, too.
Fans are finally back. So it's just a different atmosphere in general. We haven't seen this sense of normalcy in 2 years. So.
Yeah.
And this goes into the Denver Broncos and New York Giants game. Daniel Jones just can't seem to find it. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the Giants fans. Broncos win this one 27-13, led by Teddy Bridgewater at the quarterback position. Very good game. I think Drew Lock kind of got the short end of the stick with the quarterback job. I think they didn't give him enough time, didn't give him enough weapons. But either way, they're looking like a much better team, even though Jerry Jeudy did go down, I believe, with a high ankle sprain, and he'll be out for a couple months, I think, at least. So that looked like a bad injury, but overall, I mean, it was a pretty normal game. Nothing crazy happened. Giants looking like the Giants in Week 1.
Yeah.
Broncos getting the big win. But this game was weird. The Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. All offseason long, Aaron Rodgers was trying to recruit all these former Packers from the year they won the Super Bowl and trying to bring back Randall Cobb, which they did. I remember one time he was trying to bring back Clay Matthews. That wasn't working. And the Jameis Winston-led New Orleans Saints blew the brakes off of these guys.
Yeah.
He threw for 152 yards and 5 touchdowns, winning that game 38-3.
I mean, that's just not numbers we're used to seeing from Green Bay.
From Aaron Rodgers.
From Aaron Rodgers. There was a ton of drama going on
Yeah.
in the offseason for the Packers.
We didn't know if he was going to come back. Packer fans
Yeah.
really wanted him back. I'm looking at the screen and thinking, are you sure you wanted 37-year-old Aaron Rodgers back? Are you sure? Jameis Winston is going to fit real well in Sean Payton's system. I'm telling you that right now. Similar to how Drew Brees acted, but Drew Brees was more of a slant, throw across the middle kind of guy. Jameis Winston is throwing the ball deep down the field every single time and finding wide open receivers.
Yeah.
Saints are a sleeper team right now, in my honest opinion. And Sunday Night Football, Chicago Bears and LA Rams, the first game in SoFi Stadium allowing in fans. Arguably the nicest looking stadium in the league. That is a beautiful stadium. The Matthew Stafford-led LA Rams blow out the Chicago Bears led by Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, 34-14. Safe to say Matthew Stafford found his new home.
Yes, I would have to agree with you on that one. I think this is going to be a really good, fresh start for him.
I mean, he's finding Cooper Kupp, Buffalo's old former wide receiver Robert Woods. That team's dangerous. Cam Akers, who's an amazing running back. Great fantasy selection for me last year at least. Aaron Donald on that defensive side of the ball. What can you really say? That Rams team is scary. They're more established now than I think ever before. Even dating back to those old 2002 days of the greatest show on turf. So the Rams are back, and are the Green Bay Packers falling off?
I don't know. If we go off the first week type thing that we've been talking about, you can never say, but this is going to be a really weird season for them, I have a feeling.
Very interesting season. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on. Topher Elkins will be on next to talk about the MLB standings and what's coming up next for baseball, so stay tuned.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving, the ultimate party foul.
You've messed up your son's haircut. Do you try to fix it? Work with what you've got? Or show solidarity?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans. Because love has no limits.
Había un niño que era muy sensible a luces y sonidos. Construía escondites donde no podían entrar. No le gustaba mirar a la gente a los ojos, lo hacía sentir incómodo. Un día se descubrió que tenía autismo. Con ayuda poco a poco aprendió a vivir mejor con ello.
Mientras más pronto se diagnostique, mejor. Conoce las señales en autismspeaks.org.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation. We can.
Get someone a cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends.
Our roommates.
Our classmates. Our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can intervene.
It's on us.
All of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Happy to have Topher Elkins on here for the last 20 minutes or so to talk about the MLB season and what's been going on all season long regarding baseball. Topher, the end of the baseball season, man, it's coming up fast. I mean, I remember April, around Easter time, around spring break, I'm like, dude, I cannot wait. I'm so pumped for baseball season. Fans are allowed to go back into the stands. AAA baseball, AA baseball is back. And now it's September 14th, and it's already almost over.
Yeah, it's actually insane just how fast it feels like it's gone on, and it is a crazy season too. Like, just there's so many like just surprises that have just hit everything. Just between standings, just players, it's just been a crazy season for everyone.
And definitely the trade deadline was really surprising to me as well. The New York Yankees especially making these huge moves, going out and getting Gallo and getting Anthony Rizzo, and trying to stack up for a playoff spot. And these teams going on random stretches of wins, and then they lose a whole bunch after that. This is a really weird season, but it's back to normal. We're not doing that 60-game season anymore. We're at 162 now. Some teams that you wouldn't expect are climbing up in the standings towards the end to make a late season push for a wild card or a division lead, while other teams are falling off a cliff that were looking good in May and June. Honestly, though, the thing that surprised me the most about this season so far is the fall of the Boston Red Sox, who were torching the league in the early months of April, May, and June. Nobody could beat those guys. And then, I don't know what happened. They brought back Chris Sale, too. Everything was looking really, really good for them. He was coming back from, I believe it was Tommy John surgery.
Yeah,
I think something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, somebody's got to stop these guys. And then they were losing series to the Orioles and the Tigers and the Twins, and everyone's like, what's going on here? But that's got to be the biggest surprise to me is the fall of the Red Sox.
Yeah, they're literally not even in the wild card spot right now. It's like I would have expected them to be challenging for like the AL East. Like,
yeah.
I thought it would have been like a three-headed monster between the Rays, Yankees, and Red Sox before this season.
And the funny thing is, you bring up the AL East, nobody was counting. Nobody was even looking at the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, insane.
Including myself. I was saying they have arguably the youngest roster in the league. Give them like 2 to 3 years, then they can be dangerous. And then mid-August, they look dead in the water. And I'm like, yeah, these guys are done. Maybe next year. And then they won 8 in a row. They swept the Oakland A's. They swept the Yankees. And they are now 81-63. But they are 8 games behind the division lead. But they are in the top wild card spot. So as far as the wild card goes in that one game, if the season ended right now, they would get home field advantage, I believe, against the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. And obviously, it's got to help a little bit having an MVP, contender on your team batting every night. So, of course, that's got to help. And they have the skill players. They have Marcus Semien, who's this past week played just like an absolute monster.
Oakland A's are stupid to get rid of him.
Oh, it's insane how they dropped him. Lately, he's been playing like a monster. Vladdy literally just he's on 45 home runs right now.
Home run leader in the MLB, by the way.
Yeah, he could actually finish with a good 2 weeks, a good final stretch. He could be a Triple Crown winner right now between ribbies, hits, and home runs. It's actually insane.
Yeah, it's incredible. And obviously, George Springer is a great addition to that team. Bo Bichette is continuing to rake at the dish.
Absolute monster. Just underrated player.
Those guys are looking fantastic right now. Somebody's got to stop them. If teams like the Mariners and the Red Sox want to clinch their spot, somebody's got to dethrone the Toronto Blue Jays. But then, with it being the middle of September, you're starting to see more teams start to come closer to clinching that magic number for the postseason. And one team already did last night. The San Francisco Giants clinched their spot. I believe they're already at 94, 95 wins on the season.
Yeah.
They haven't clinched the division yet. The Dodgers are 2 games behind them. But they have clinched a postseason spot, and they are October bound. Nobody was counting in the San Francisco Giants. Somebody was predicting them on ESPN before the season go 72 and 80 something, have a losing record and miss the postseason. But how could you think that with a roster with Brandon Belt and Mike Yastrzemski and all these players that continually put up great batting average, put up great numbers, and hit homers every single night? Like, you just can't count those guys out.
No, for sure. But I think if you would have told me at like the beginning of the season they'd be the #1 team in baseball, I would have been lying. I'm like, yeah, they're good. They could be just over that 500,
Yeah.
maybe challenging for that second wild card spot. But #1 team, only team to clinch playoffs right now, that's just not the Giants I would have expected at the beginning of the year.
I would have put my money on the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Easily for the NL, absolutely.
Bringing in, well, before the season started, they bringing in Trevor Bauer, the pitcher, re-signing Max Muncy to a big contract, bringing in Trey Turner. I'm like, wow, dude, these Dodgers are going to be good. But the Giants are surprising some people, and that's a great rivalry to watch between the Giants and the Dodgers. I love that rivalry. It's amazing. But they are the first team. But they certainly won't be the only team to clinch this in this week.
For sure.
There were some crazy games last night, Topher.
For sure.
Oh,
yeah.
man. Let's just get into some of last night's games.
Oh, for sure.
Let's start off with the local team and the New York Yankees. Minnesota Twins were pounding them into the ground. They were up 5-0 early in that game. The Yankees score 1 run in the 6th, 1 run in the 7th, 3 runs in the 8th to tie it, and they walk it off in the 10th. And the Twins were left stunned, even though I don't think they're going to make the postseason, but this was a much-needed win for the Yankees and for their fans.
Yeah, Aaron Judge just being one of the most clutch players in baseball, hitting that home run, and I think it was, the 8th inning?
Yep.
8th or the 9th, yeah, just absolute killed it. And he's literally probably, right now, I'd say 3rd in my MVP voting and for AL, behind obviously Shohei, who's just not human, and then Vladdy, who would have an MVP position locked if Shohei Ohtani didn't exist.
Right. I mean, you bring up Shohei Ohtani. We're just, just one quick thing about him. How can you have a player in this league that can throw 95 miles per hour and almost tie Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the most home runs in the league? He's a starting pitcher, and I think he's the second batter in the Angels lineup.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's second or third.
He's a freak. But yeah, he's not human like Topher said. He's not human.
It's not fair.
It's just not fair. And out of all the teams he could have gone to, he chose the Angels.
Yeah, it hurts. Like, God, it would be just imagine him on a Blue Jays team.
Yeah.
Imagine him on a Blue Jays team, or you say the Yankees, obviously they have the money to sign a big name player like that, but just him on the Angels, it's almost fitting too, because they have the born guy with Trout, who obviously was injured for most of this year.
Yep.
And then you get the Shohei. They just have the natural baseball
Justin
players.
Upton, Jared Walsh.
Yeah, just natural,
amazing.
just skilled baseball players.
And can you imagine if he went to a Tampa Bay Ray machine? They would have destroyed the league. They were the runners-up of the World Series last year in the 60-game season. If he chose to go to the Rays or a team that was this close from a World Series that just came up short, they would have won in the next coming 5-10 years, probably multiple times.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about. When he came in, people knew he pitched, they knew he batted, but they never knew this was gonna. They figured he'd be an okay batter when he's in the AL, the AL NL.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll get a swing or two. No, he's in the lineup every night playing the DH position or when he's pitching. It's just crazy.
He's the second starting pitcher in their rotation.
Yeah.
I think he's behind, I'm blanking on it right now, but he's second in their rotation, and he bats second in the lineup. So he's definitely a utility guy. You can always use Shohei Ohtani, and ESPN loves him, obviously for good reason. MLB Network can't get enough of him, but he's just a freak of nature. That's all you can say about Shohei Ohtani.
For sure.
And the streaking Toronto Blue Jays last night, destroying the Tampa Bay Rays 8-1.
It was just nuts.
Vladimir Guerrero, 45 home. What is it? 45?
Yeah,
30?
that was
45?
It was 45 last night. Yeah.
Oh boy, somebody. I don't think anybody can stop those guys right now. They are on a mission to just put the pedal to the metal, keep their foot on the gas, and clinch at least a wild card spot. I think them taking the AL East is a bit of a stretch, with 2-3 weeks to go and they're down by 8 games.
Yeah, I think the Rays have too big of a lead.
They can definitely get a wild card spot easily. They can easily clinch the spot if they just stick to their brand of baseball. And Montoya's not an idiot. He's a good manager. Blue Jays are a good team, good young team. They'll be very dangerous in the next coming years too. The Marlins shutting out the Nationals. I still can't believe the Nationals won the World Series a couple years ago.
Yeah,
they have not been the same since. That is the ultimate example of getting hot at the right time. That was what the Nationals did a couple years ago. And obviously going to Game 7, winning that World Series. And then in 2020, inaccurate stats, whatever, we'll pass on that. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Now the Nationals are at the bottom of that division. I think that's like the epitome of, okay, we won a championship, we gave the fans what they want, now let's just rebuild again.
Yeah, like I just don't know how you go from so high to so low so fast in literally any sport, especially baseball, when you have like your training, you have your prospects, you're consistently building at all times, and you just flip like a switch. Like it just doesn't make sense.
I think they were they had a lot of vets the year they won the World Series. I mean, Howie Kendrick was a big part of that team. Juan Soto as a rookie was super flashy that year, but he's kind of been dipping a little bit, but that happens in baseball. But I think just the effect of all their veteran players leaving and then having to go into your AAA affiliate to figure out your roster for the next 4 or 5 years. There are some growing pains there. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there. Nationals will be all right in the future, but the Marlins are a team to look out for, especially Brian De La Cruz. New acquisition from the trade deadline that they traded with Houston. He's looking good in that center field spot. He wasn't getting he didn't have a spot on Houston's roster. Now he's finally in a major league organization full time. The Marlins will definitely build a team around him. I think that was a good trade.
Yeah, as they should. He's a young guy. Like he will definitely be like a center point of a team. Whether it's the Marlins or just anyone in the future, he'll be there. He'll be in a starting spot every night, just holding down an outfield.
And he just wanted a chance. That's what every MLB player wants. They want that chance. So why not go to the deadline, try to expand your bullpen if you're Houston, and send them one of your top prospects and see what would happen. It's not like you're trading within the division either, trading within your inner league. You're trading to a National League team from an American League team. It's not really going to affect you in the long run. The Cardinals shutting out the Mets after a fantastic Subway Series between the Mets and the Yankees. The Mets fall off a cliff in this one and lose to the Cardinals 7-0. They just got dominated.
I just don't get it. I don't know how you have like Lindor hit 3 home runs and then they just goose egg it. Like, as a Yankees fan, it actually just hurts me to watch that.
Yeah.
It actually is just painful to watch that Subway Series and like watch every game and then just look the next day and be like, oh, they got shut out. I just don't get it. I really don't. Like, they have talent on that team and they just none of them showed up.
And there's always been a rivalry between the two New York teams, right?
Of course.
But ever since the bat flip from Giancarlo Stanton, I think that rivalry just got even hotter. And there was almost a brawl. The bullpens were emptied out. Garrett Cole was running after him. I mean, he was ready. I saw him running out with his fist.
Great.
He was ready to attack. I mean, I'd never seen Garrett Cole that angry, that fired up in my entire life.
I loved it.
But yeah, that was a great series. I love watching that Subway Series. But
it's great every year.
The Mets, who started off all right, are kind of dipping a little bit, but they still have a young team. They can still develop. They have new owners, Francisco Lindor, Javi Baez. If he comes back next year, count on the Mets to be a runner in the National League for sure.
Yeah, they just gotta get hot at the right times. More often than not, and this year they just didn't do it. They just couldn't consistently stay a decent enough team. They go on little runs here or there, and then they just lose more than they could. They just be losing series left and right, especially versus division opponents.
Yeah, dropping series to the Phillies was killing them in late July, early August, and I think they'll be back next year. They'll be way better prepared. Bryce Harper knows how to face against the New York Mets, and that's obvious at this point. But we already covered Giants beating the Padres, clinching that postseason spot. What happened to the Padres, man?
I don't get it. They're still in a playoff position, but they really they don't look like the same team they did in the beginning half. Pre-trade deadline, they looked like they were going to win the World Series. I could have, if you would have guessed before anything happened to the trade deadline, I'd be like, yeah, the Padres actually just might be it. And then trade deadline happened, other teams were making moves. I don't think the Padres did anything too eye-opening to really be they're trying to be that contender right now, and after that they just fell off, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, and especially their pitchers too that were great in the beginning of the year. I mean, Darvish was looking great. He's fallen off. Joe Musgrove got a no-hitter earlier in the year, and he's kind of been falling off a bit. Obviously Blake Snell, who they got from the Tampa Bay Rays last year. I don't know what's going on with that rotation. I think they're losing confidence, and that's you can't be losing these games at this point of the
This
season.
is the worst time of the year to probably do it, when everyone's like, everyone knows where they're sitting, and they know who they have to beat on any given night to be like, yeah, this is gonna get us into that like winning wild card or division. I actually don't know if they're in a good chance to lose their division. Do they have it like pretty locked up right now?
I think as far as the wild card goes, when I saw it like a week or so ago, they do have a decent shot at winning at least the second wild card spot. At least I would hope so, with a team that has one of the best players in the league, and Fernando Tatis Jr. on it. But I mean, that guy's a freak of nature as well. I still think that they'll go to the playoffs. It's just a matter of getting hot at the right time. Who knows? Like,
for sure.
They can clinch a wild card spot, win that game, and then just take off from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best part about postseason baseball. It's watching the teams that get electric at the right time.
Yeah, they're actually tied right now with St. Louis for a wild card
That's
spot.
crazy.
They're both 74 and 69. I never would have thought. I didn't think the Cardinals, I knew they were doing well, over 500. I didn't think they'd be literally tied right now for a position spot in mid-September.
I'd like to see it either way. I kind of want to see Tatis in the playoffs, but I also want to see Yadier Molina go back to the playoffs at least one more time in his career. So I'll take it any way I can get it. It's going to be a fun finish for those guys in the National League for sure. And then the what do you call it? It's the Texas series, the Lone Star series.
Oh, yeah.
A battle of the two Texas teams.
That's not a battle.
The Astros. Oh man, the Houston Astros beat the Texas Rangers by 2 touchdowns yesterday.
It was a murder. It was actually just a murder on national television. It was not fair.
And what was great about that game was a player that the Astros called up from AAA named Jose Siri had his first career start. And he set MLB history last night. In his first career start, he had 4 RBIs, 2 home runs. No, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs, and 4 base hits. He's setting MLB history. That goes all the way back to 1920, before they were tallying RBI totals. So he's setting history. Yordan Alvarez had 2 homers last night. Altuve had an RBI last night. Correa had 2 RBIs last night. It was a complete blowout for those guys.
It wasn't fair. Anyone that watched that game that wasn't an Astros fan was pretty upset. It was just not. It was fun to watch just because obviously home runs are fun, they're exciting, but it was just it was just gross. In terms of just how badly they got beaten down.
And if you're a Rangers fan, at least you have that nice new stadium to look forward to. Going into next year, man, that's about all you got going for you guys right now. 2 more games before we wrap up, though. The Dodgers, no surprise here, at home beat the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are completely out of contention. They win that game 5-1. I mean, if you're the Dodgers, those are gimme games at the end of the year. You're trying to chase the Giants to win the division. You have to win those games. Not surprised there.
Yeah, no, it was. Scherzer's a Cy Young candidate right now.
Oh, absolutely.
He's nuts, yeah.
Even though Cody Bellinger's been falling off very, very badly, that Dodgers team is complete for sure. And the last game, Mariners over the Red Sox, that's crucial for the wild card. Pretty much, with that being said, thank you for tuning into this first episode of the Fall 2021 semester of Sports Hour. We will see you at 9 o'clock. Same time, same place. We'll see you next week.
Yep.